Welcome to the Austin All Day Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to Austin's Culinary Frequency. Today we are here with Executive Chef Grant and Pastry Chef B from the University of Texas Golf Club. As always, go follow the podcast on Instagram and support the podcast on Patreon. If you are on our Patreon, we do have hats on the way, and you will be receiving one of those. You guys sit back, grab a drink, and check it out. So, Chef Grant, Chef B from University Golf Club.
That's it.
Welcome to South Austin. Did you guys have to come to far?
I'm up in Cedar Park. It's about 40 minutes away, but it wasn't too bad.
You're out of the grime of Austin.
I have
right?
to be.
Yeah.
I have to be.
I'm in it.
You're
I
in
live
it?
off of Riverside. I love it.
You love it?
Yeah, it fuels me.
Just embrace it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, welcome here. Thank you guys for coming in. Chef Grant, you are the exec chef over at the University Golf Club.
Yep. Been at the UT Golf Club for about 3.5 years now. Creeping up towards 4 here in the next 4 or 5 months.
Little change of pace. Are you like from restaurants or is?
Yeah. Well, a majority of my career, almost all of it, came up through hotels.
Okay.
I was fortunate of the hotels I got to work at, and the way they treat the restaurants are very much like a standalone restaurant, but we were attached to hotels, and it is extremely different. When you're working at a private country club, you're dealing with a private membership base.
Yeah.
That's not, so-and-so diner that you're never going to see again. That's whoever, Mr. Thompson, or we'll pick a name. You're going to see him again tomorrow night. So the expectations and standards in that type of environment, you can imagine trying to run a restaurant that you want the same customers to eat at 4 times a week or more. That's not easy.
Sure.
For sure. But we love it, gives us a lot of opportunity to be creative, and as long as we're delivering, great product and a lot of change frequently to the membership, they enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're cooking for repeated guests, like over and over.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to, I guess the best way to describe it is we have to have such a wide variety of offerings.
That people don't get bored.
Yeah, they don't get bored, and you're changing menus constantly. At least that's how we do it at the UT Golf Club. We have an all-day menu that runs 11 a.m. until we close every day, but then we also have another menu in the evenings, our Crafted Eats program, which is small plates, coursed out. It's a lot nicer. That menu we change frequently. It's every 4 to 6 weeks we change that menu.
Let me pause you on the menu because Chef B, I skipped right over your pastry department over there.
That's correct.
And how do you like this, real quick?
Oh, I love it. I do like the fact that I can be creative and just do a bunch of stuff that comes off the top of my head, really.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure that you embrace like that kind of attitude when you're trying to keep the menu spicy, right?
Yeah, and then we have like theme nights where, especially like, for example, Sundays is our kind of Italian pasta night. Kind of have to do a Italian themed dessert special. So it's always fun to like just keep me on my toes and put something out.
Back to the menus, and you were kind of touching on that too. So Sundays, you guys do Italian theme?
Yeah, the way the program works there is we have a few themed nights throughout the week, and every time we do one of these sort of themed nights, the idea is it's in conjunction with the rest of our program. It's not in place of. We have everything from little kids to, some retired members to young entrepreneurs. Everything in between. So you have to find a way to appease everybody. And for example, one of the things that we do at the club is on Wednesday nights we do a family night. They'll have an entire buffet just dedicated to the kids, and then the adults will all come in and order off the Crafted Eats program. So it's you've got one line where you're slinging chicken tenders and mac and cheese for kids, and you're dropping, anything on our Crafted Eats program at the same time, which is polar opposites. But it keeps it interesting, and it definitely helps us to appease the majority of the membership, on a nightly basis.
Well, you've got kids. I have a kid. You have children?
I do not.
But appealing to the kids is very important. If they're happy, it's a lot easier for the adults to be happy.
And we've got a young club. I mean, it's a young membership base. It's not what a lot of people would associate with a country club. It's definitely not, or a golf club. But our membership base has a lot of young families.
Okay.
And if those kids aren't happy, the parents aren't coming out.
Sure.
So you have to find a way to sort of bring everybody in and under one roof.
So here for myself and maybe anyone else, some tips here, because you've got 5 children.
Oh man,
So,
yeah.
and you're a chef. So what are you cooking for these guys,
Oh,
or what
man.
have you while growing up?
My kids eat like any other little kid out there. It's no
So
different.
we're just limited to mac and cheese, and
I
grilled
mean, it's
cheese, cheese. And,
my kids are a little bit more adventurous than that. Only because I try to expose them to as much stuff as I can. But
Yes.
it's I'd be lying if I sat here and said that they wouldn't devour a dinosaur-shaped chicken nugget if I put it in front of them. But at the same time, we'll go out to restaurants and they're always willing to try anything.
Well, that's
they may
good.
not like it all, but they're definitely willing to try it, which helps.
oh yeah,
So when I spoke about family night, the
Yeah.
idea behind that is that there's a certain night of the week that all those families with young kids come out to. The idea is that that frees up some of that type of membership group at other points in the week, like on a Friday night, for example. So that if you're not looking for that experience when you show up at the restaurant, they've already had their night. They came out on Wednesday. They had this great experience. We'll do some sort of kids activity for them at the same time. But then on Friday night, when the couples come out, they want to just have a nice dinner. They want to sit down at the bar. They're not hearing the audio of all these kids running around, and so we do those types of things to try to create space for each type of member, I guess. Is that the best way to describe it? I mean,
Yeah, I would say so.
yeah, right in the middle of the week too. That's pretty smart.
sure, yeah.
So the is it more like fine dining?
The Crafted Eats menu for sure is,
Yeah.
but the all-day menu's not. So, there's many times where at one table you'll have 3 people ordering several courses off the Crafted Eats menu. Between the 3 of them, they might order 8 things off that menu and share everything and pass stuff around the table. But 2 of them ordered a cheeseburger off the all-day menu, and one of them was a kid ordering off the kids' menu. So, I mean, it's just that's why I say we really try to find a balance so that, those diverse groups come in and they can all have something that they'll enjoy.
Yeah. Going off course with the actual club here and what you guys are doing, you two, am I shot in the dark here, but the Driscoll, were you guys both there together? You
Yeah,
guys,
we worked
you
there
guys
together.
have some history? Mm-hmm. All right. So how long have you guys been cooking together? And I like how when that happens, it means you guys have a good relationship.
Yeah, I mean, we probably cooked together at the Driscoll
At least a year.
for a year, but it was probably, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago almost, 10 years ago.
What?
You think?
No.
No, because you came later.
6 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
Grant.
I dated myself when I started at the Driscoll. Yeah. But, we were together there. Our executive sous chef that works with us at the club also worked with us at the Driscoll, or worked with me in the banquet department. So
Okay.
Yeah.
we try to bring people with us as much as we can,
Sure.
Yeah.
And what, touch on that a little bit, because that's a pretty common theme. If you got good, you go ahead.
Yeah, well, when it comes to leadership in the kitchen, it's really important, in my opinion, to have people that you trust. It's hard to bring someone in from the outside because, every kitchen position is important. And I'm not trying to, not that one's more important than the other, but when you're talking about managing an entire program like the club, which, it's got a restaurant, a bar, it's got, dining 6 days a week from breakfast till dinner. It's got banquets and catering events. It's got membership-driven events, parties. I mean, that's a monster of an operation to be able to just bring someone in that you don't know and just kind of hope it's going to work out. So I've been very fortunate in my career that everywhere I've gone, actually, now I think about it, definitively, I've been able to surround myself with leadership that I've worked with in the past.
So you got aces in your back pocket.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. Yeah,
Okay.
that it worked out that way for me.
But that's a common theme I see with a lot of guys around Austin, I'm sure everywhere,
Yeah.
is that, even when somebody leaves to just try something new and somebody's got a good thing going, a lot of times they'll leave to go help them or join their crew.
Yeah, I mean, when I took over as a chef at the club, the sous chef that was there went with the old chef. It's just the
Yeah.
way it kind of goes.
Right,
And you got to
right.
be prepared for that. But, I have been very fortunate to be able to get Chef B to come on board with me at the club, and then Chef Greg too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then again, so you started saying 10 years at the Driscoll, or that's when it was 10 years ago. You guys are both from Texas, both you guys.
Yep. I'm from Houston.
From Laredo.
Yeah. When did you guys kick it into the culinary arts?
Straight out of high school.
High school?
Yeah.
And was it a thing where you landed in the kitchen because you needed a job, or did you land in the kitchen because you knew you kind of wanted to explore cooking?
The latter. I would stay up late at night and watch Food Network instead of like dirty cartoons or anything.
Yeah.
And that was
or a mix between the two, go back and forth.
Well, later in life, like I just think it's just something I always thought was fun.
Sure.
I could be expressive in that aspect, especially in pastry. I started off savory, and I kind of felt myself hitting a certain like plateau with it.
Okay.
And then I delved
as far as skills or just like interest?
Interest, really.
Yeah.
And then, don't get me wrong, throw me on a line and I'll do it.
Yeah.
But pastry is just, I can express myself more. I like the concept better.
What do they say? It's more like chemistry, and cooking's more like, I don't know what a chef would say. It's like, I don't know.
I mean,
like improvisation, where pastry's more if you kind of like deviate from the recipe, then you get something that's flat when it's supposed to be fluffy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like, yes, the discipline with technique is it can be a little bit difficult at times, but I love, like, once you get it down, what you can do with that,
Sure.
How you can execute and what other things you can just...
So there's still that element of improv involved.
I think I like that challenge a little bit more.
So how quickly did you find yourself in pastries?
2 years after culinary school, I got hired on by a chef at Hyatt Hill Country. That's how I got into the Hyatt realm before they bought out the Driscoll. And just was at a resort in San Antonio, and he just like, he told me, you have these hands. You're like a pastry chef. I could just tell by these hands. And, just come under my wing. I was like, just impressionable, like 18-year-old kid. I was like, okay, cool. And just started doing that.
Nice.
It challenged me creatively and artistically. And I was just very, prosperous, I guess.
Sure. And Chef Grant, what?
Yeah, I was a late bloomer. It was a very different story than what you hear a lot of chefs go through.
Well, this is interesting, though.
Yeah, for myself, I actually went to school to be a teacher.
Okay.
I went to U of H, and I was going through the program there. And when you get to the early stages of your, I guess would be like your senior year kind of time frame, you start your student teaching. And the very first time I went in a classroom, I realized that wasn't for me.
Wow.
And I decided real quickly that wasn't what I was going to do. Prior to that, I worked for the YMCA for almost a decade.
So you like the involvement with the children?
Yeah, I was doing the nonprofit youth thing for a really long time. And that's what I think segued me into trying teaching.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even remotely close.
Did you only do the one class and just literally decided you weren't doing
Well,
that
I mean,
again?
I went through all of the program up to to start of that senior year. But
what
then
year do you, or what grade?
It was
level?
pre-Key through fourth grade. Is what I was going to school for at the time.
I think if I walked into a classroom, I would say the same thing.
Well, I mean, having spent so much time in, that nonprofit youth dynamic, so much of what you do with those kids is through play, is what I guess how it would be described. It's through youth sports, after-school care programs, summer camps, that kind of stuff. And, I kind of felt like I knew that I was enjoying that job, but I didn't want to make a career of that exact environment. I had been doing it for a long time. So that's why I thought about teaching, but then realized that it's so much more, I guess, different than what I was doing.
Yeah.
More so than I guess I was comfortable with, and it just wasn't for me. And then after that, I moved. All right, back then I was still in Houston, and I played music for a really long time.
We were talking about that offline. Yeah.
Yep.
Guitar player.
Yep. And then I moved to Austin to play in the band that was out here with a bunch of buddies of mine.
And you got to mention the name.
The band name was called Redefining the Moment. It's been many moons ago at this point, but
Sure.
it was a blast, and I'm
Can we
forever.
find any relics on SoundCloud there? Or
I'm
something?
sure there's something out there.
Something
You know
out
what?
there?
I'll find you a CD. How about
Okay.
that?
We'll throw
Right,
it.
Napster,
Napster.
LimeWire, dude. No, but I did that because I had a passion for music, and then but had no idea what I wanted to do for a career. So I thought I would just kind of dive in head first and try to make a career out of music. We did.
What year was that when you came, or around-ish?
I mean,
Because the music scene has kind of dissipated a little bit.
oh, it's very different than when I first
When
came
you
out
came, it
here.
was
yeah,
still
very
kind of thriving.
Yeah, it's very different. I'd say it was, and I'm just sort of guessing here, but probably 2004 to 2000.
Yeah,
No, 2002 to 2007.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range is the time frame that I was out here doing music.
Well, and we've seen drastic changes within 3 years here.
Oh yeah,
So-
it's not like it was for sure.
Yeah.
But I came out here for music, and at the time was just doing that, and I was still working at the Y off and on just to kind of pay bills, in between playing gigs, and just decided that I needed to figure out what I wanted to do, and the only other thing that I had passion for, besides those other two avenues that I just discussed, was cooking. But I never thought of it in any form or fashion as a viable career option.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something I like to do. My mother's side of the family's from Louisiana, and I remember as a kid every summer going to Louisiana, and my mom would cook that kind of food for me from time to time. And
That's some good food.
yeah, and I guess as I got older, I had an appreciation for, it's just a few hours down the road, the cuisine is completely different, and just the way that works, and I had an appreciation for that, and at the same time, being born and raised in Texas, I had been smoking meats for a long time, just on my own, just because I enjoyed it. So I decided that I'd go visit Texas Culinary Academy and just kind of see what it would be like. I had no real preconceived notions or anything at that point.
Sure.
And the first time I saw a commercial kitchen of any kind was the labs at the school,
Right.
and immediately fell in love with how that would work. And then I went to school, and then that was it. That was
Wow.
2007
Yeah.
to 2009, I think, is when I was at school.
When you what were you cooking, like, for yourself, if you can even remember, prior to like walking into that kitchen the first time
Yeah.
you see that?
Well,
I know
at the
meats,
time,
you said
it was
smoking
tons
meat.
of Texas barbecue.
Okay, so a lot of barbecue.
Yeah, buying a lot of books, doing a lot of reading.
Okay.
Just
So there's like a little passion for it, though. It's not like
oh, for sure.
Okay.
It well, that's why I said I went to the school, because it was the only other thing that I had passion for, but I never really thought of it as something you could make a career out of. I mean, I knew obviously there's people that do it,
Right.
but for some reason it just never really clicked with me as
did it
an
ever?
option.
Did you go get a job in a kitchen, or did you go right to culinary school?
I went straight to culinary school. As soon as I saw what those labs looked like in that school,
Yeah.
I was hooked, signed up immediately, and I
Yeah.
went straight to school.
Cool. And you had some experience under your belt before culinary school. Not much, but
3 months at McDonald's.
3 months at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Wow.
My dad was like, need to get a job. My buddy's the manager there. I got you a job. I was like,
And then how did you say, I need to go to culinary school
because
from McDonald's?
Well, because I was just realistic. I knew this is what I was going to do.
Okay, all
like
right.
I was like, well, I knew what kind of a kitchen, what kind of food. Maybe not concretely like what I wanted to do, but I knew it wasn't McDonald's. You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like I knew it wasn't going to be that. And I mean,
So-
it humbled me. That's for sure.
A lot of people are like attracted to like the craziness of a kitchen or stuff, but it sounds like when you walked into a kitchen, that was not it, because you didn't see it in this manic state. You saw
What I saw was a team at the time, hindsight, they're probably just all students, but no matter how you slice it, it was a team of people working in the kitchen together,
and that
and seeing the space, what you have at your disposal in a commercial kitchen was just that's what it was for me.
And then you was it like, I know that you went from 3 months but what was it that attracted you to cooking, to choose it as a career? Do you kind of like being in the heat of the situation, or is it like the structure like this?
A little bit, like a
Well,
little
you
bit of
live
both.
on
Like
Riverside. I know it's got to be to being in the weeds.
not necessarily in the weeds, but just kind of like the quick problem solving kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like being able to like knock out a list and keep another list going. That kind of mindset of just keep it going.
Sure.
I kind of like it, like the nonstop factor of it. Plus the discipline as well. Like it definitely disciplined me as well.
Definitely. And so, Chef Grant, you go to culinary school because you like how it works, but then no, they don't teach you or yourself the 12-hour days on your
No,
feet.
I learned that at the Driscoll.
Right. So
Yeah.
we're trying to prep the Austin All Day course about
Yeah.
how to pay for student debt.
Sure.
And
Yeah. Well, I guess to just sort of keep that story going, when I got out of school, at the end of culinary school, there's some sort of externship program.
Yeah.
Texas Culinary Academy was like that. When it was the Cordon Bleu, it was like that. Escoffier is like that. They all do some form of it.
Sure. Yeah.
And
And you get paid for that when you do that.
Well, now you do.
You didn't get paid. It was
I
like a
worked at the
stage.
Driscoll for free for a little over 3 months.
Wow.
Almost full time. Yeah. At the time, it was very different, and there was, there were so many more cooks applying for jobs than there were jobs open. It's sort of the exact opposite of what it's like now. That places could afford to do that, and I worked there because I knew I wanted to work there. What I liked about it was, I didn't know anything, at this point besides what they teach you at school.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, if I could get into hotels, there's some structure there. There's some definitive growth opportunities, especially with a management company that manages a lot of properties. It wasn't Hyatt yet, but it was another one called Destination Hotels and Resorts that Hyatt actually owns now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But there was that, and then it was also the fact that the Driscoll specifically, the food to me back then, the food was as important as the room side. It wasn't like a lot of hotels are where food is an amenity to selling room nights, right?
Yeah.
But back there, when I first started there, I started in the cafe, and it was, you gauged your success by your Yelp reviews, not by, membership not membership, hotel guest feedback surveys.
Oh yeah.
Because it was treated very much like an external restaurant. It was important to take care of the hotel guests for sure, but 80% of our guests weren't hotel guests.
Yeah. When you get the Yelp reviews, aren't they littered with service about rooms or isn't it hard to pick out the ones about
Not
food?
so much, because if you're pulling up, I can only speak about what it was like back then, but you pull up, the 1886 Cafe and Bakery. Well, that's a restaurant. But
okay.
then, the Driscoll Hotel is the hotel.
Oh, okay. So there's a clear kind of
Kind of like a
separation.
filter.
Definitely.
Okay.
So you didn't really get a whole lot of that.
So, okay. So when that was happening, you're reading those reviews where it may have been useful, but my guess is, and I might be wrong, now you fast forward, aren't the Yelp reviews today a little bit different where they're just oversaturated and almost silly to pay attention to? Or do you still find them useful?
I think they're useful for certain things, for sure. I think that, and I don't have to deal with this right now because I'm at a private club, but, in my experience in the past.
If you get a Yelp review there, you know exactly who it is.
Yeah.
Barbara.
Yeah. But in my experience, Yelp depends on what you take away from it. If you see trends through Yelp reviews, it's worth looking into.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of one-offs that you're right
Sure.
can kind of be someone's experience was impacted that's out of your hands for some form of reason, and it impacts their review. But you can definitely use it to your advantage if you're looking at just sort of the overall experience of the majority of the people coming and try to find, like I said, any sort of trends,
Yeah.
good or bad,
Sure.
but to take away from that.
Yeah.
That's what I would say it can be valuable at.
And one thing I like about Yelp too is that you could look up the reviewers review history.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Yep.
like if they say oh, my server didn't give me a glass of water in a timely manner, it's they kind of harped on that a little bit too much. That's an example. You can go back and they also wrote the same review for a Taco Bell,
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just kind of they're just being petty.
Now, we had, this is kind of, it's related, but the Hotel Grand Duca, the chef Miguel over there will personally respond to some of the reviews. Have you ever done anything like that? He responds with his personal phone number.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
No, in the past, with my time in hotels, anything that was food related, the chef had to respond directly to the guest.
Okay.
But it wasn't tied to those Yelp reviews. It was tied to their stay.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So if it was, so and so in room 326 had, this bad experience, and they fill out the survey at the end and they say that, if it was about food, I would respond. If it was about a room, the room's director would respond, or so on down the line, just kind of depending on who's responsible.
Was the Driscoll kind of like the pioneer in like we have Hotel Van Zandt now, and we've got like these hotels / places that really focus on food.
I mean, it's the second oldest hotel in Texas, is not the first one in San Antonio?
It's either that or it's the oldest hotel in Texas. Pretty sure it is. But either way, I mean, it's, and I can only speak about the membership. I mean, the ownership group, or the management group actually is probably a better term, while I worked there. So I worked there for Destination Hotels and Resorts and then Hyatt when Hyatt bought it over. When it was DH&R, during that time period, it definitely was thought of as the restaurants they need to stand on their own. They need to be a part of the city. It's not part of the hotel. And it was treated as such. And then, when Hyatt bought the property, I was only there for 9 months after Hyatt brought it. So I can't speak too much to that, but that's what it was like then. And it was, it was thought of as part of selling the whole package, but not an amenity to another area in the property, if that makes any sense at all.
No, it makes sense.
The restaurants need to have their own name in town to help bring people to the hotel, not the restaurant needs to be a place where we, you get 20% off your breakfast if you, book 3 nights. I mean, that wasn't really the goal.
And a lot of hotels function like that. And they're
Well, of course they do, and it's a successful model. I'm not, it works. That's just one of the reasons why I went there at the time. So I spent time in every kitchen at the Driscoll, but specifically talking about the cafe and bakery, the patio of the restaurant is on 6th Street.
Yeah.
Right.
You can walk directly into the restaurant, right off of 6th Street.
That's some location for you, right? Yeah. So you guys worked together at the Driscoll?
Correct.
Right.
Okay. And what was your position over there?
Well, for a few years, I was there a long time. So for a part of my stint there, for a few years, I was the special event chef, is what they called the banquet chef. So I was the banquet chef there for a few years. I was also chef de cuisine of the 1886 Cafe and Bakery.
Okay.
For a while. And then another title while I was there was sous chef for like a few years, and I kind of bounced around and helped all the departments to some degree.
Sure.
Like a Tournant.
Kind of, but had more of a home than a Tournant typically does. But yeah. And then Chef B was there in both savory and pastry during his time at the Driscoll.
And that's where you guys crossed paths.
Yep.
And obviously connected, and maybe not even then, but enough to
Maybe
now.
he hired me.
Yeah, well, what was interesting was when Chef B started at the Driscoll, he worked in my kitchen with me, working the hotline. I didn't know anything about his pastry experience.
Oh, yeah?
Zero. He came on board and was a really talented hot side cook too. So that's what I saw from him. And during his time there, at some point, he sort of phased out of that and went back to pastry again. During this time period where he was kind of figuring out, I guess, where he wanted to be. But I only found out about his pastry skill set later.
Okay. After your experience at the Driscoll?
Partly while I was there.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, when he originally came on, it wasn't for that. And I didn't know anything about it at the time.
Sure. What kind of, and I mean, I don't know, is it interesting to know? I'm curious, what kind of restaurants were floating around at that time that you guys were kind of like in competition with, especially, 6th Street and all that stuff? I mean, there's not a lot of restaurants on 6th Street, but
Right.
But there's good restaurants now. What was then?
Sure. Man, it's hard to say going back and try to remember, because they would come up and disappear, and then.
Well, I know Parkside's been there forever.
Okay.
Yep, definitely.
11
you've
years
been
now,
there,
to 12,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah, I was there for a bit.
The backspace was
Backspace,
around
yeah.
for sure. Those are both Chef Sean's spots.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other ones. Like Easy Tiger, I think, opened as well at the same time when I started.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When I'm listening to you talk about your experience, like getting into like culinary arts, And coming from teaching, it sounds like you have like a very organized approach to how you want your future to go. And like you didn't just choose a kitchen, because I wanted to know if you were ever tempted to go just work in a restaurant, like a traditional setup.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you think like bigger than that.
I try to always have a plan, you know, for several years down the road. But yeah, I'm a pretty organized person. I mean, Chef B's, you know, been with us at the team at the club for a little while now, and he might be able to sort of discuss a little bit what he thinks coming in from the outside to the way our kitchen operates. But it's definitely it's the way I have sanity. It's to have some form of organization, because the kitchen is controlled chaos to some degree.
All right.
Yeah.
So having a way to manage that, and you're managing personality types, and you're managing not just the numbers and not just food costs and labor costs and quality, but it's also the people. And yeah, I've been pretty fortunate in my career to have had opportunities to do training in a lot of different places, and
Sure.
you know, picked up a lot of things along the way that helped me.
Yeah. So Chef B, how is it? How is working with Chef Grant here? Let's have him. Let
No
him
pressure.
have it.
I'm not sitting.
I'm turning
right
off your
next to
mic
you.
now.
I mean, it's
Let him have it.
I mean, it's like chaotic, but controlled, if you know what I mean.
I like it.
No, it's pretty much it. You know, it's usually like more often than not a plan for a plan. You know what I mean? Like it's really good to like kind of come in and like, kind of learn from that as well, instead of just like, all right, we're going to deal with next week's problem halfway through the week. No, he's already dealt with it like
Sure.
in advance, and
That's his organization. How about like the whole crew? How do they all function under Chef Grant?
pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like a rotating door there? Or you guys got, I mean, besides leadership?
It's been a lot more of a rotating door in the last year and a half. Prior to that, it wasn't like that
You think
near
that's
as
a
much.
symptom of just like the growth in Austin? And
It's exactly what's happening in all of Austin. Every chef I know is
Yeah.
dealing with the same problems. You have
The lack of different schools, like what?
yeah. Well, when Le Cordon Bleu closed, it's an awful lot of students that were at least trained from a school perspective that aren't around anymore. And what I notice more and more of now is I'm having to teach a lot more now than what I used to, which isn't a problem. But at the same time, they're not coming in with the same amount of experience as they used to.
yeah, it sounds like you have a more laid back approach than last night. For instance, Chef Paul, you know, he kind of really values when you get an education in school, and when you come into a kitchen and you're like, you know, you ask somebody to execute something and they get to look at you and say, you know, without a culinary education, well, I don't know how to, you're going to need to show me. You know, he's kind of like, you need to know how to do that. You're in here. This is a trade. You know, kind of like I think we referenced if you hired a plumber and he walked out and he was like, I don't know, and he just left.
Yeah, I mean, you know, once upon a time, I feel like your expectation level had to be a lot. I mean, it could be
Higher.
much higher.
Yeah, and he may be a little more old school. He's a really good guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've had to adapt. You know, it's something that if you approach everything with that sort of a mindset and that kind of an attitude, at least in my experience where we're currently located, because the club isn't exactly in the, you know, right in the middle of downtown where all the cooks are wanting to work, you're going to find yourself struggling to keep them.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've kind of had to readjust our philosophy a little bit. And instead of, you know, only try to find the premier talent out there that has a ton of experience and don't even look at the rest, what we've had to do is be willing to bring in people with a little bit less experience and invest the time into them. It's a little bit more costly, and, you know, it causes a little bit more turnover, but we've had some people that have been extremely successful, you know, with us.
You mean they come in, they learn the ropes, just like because people become very successful without ever going to school.
I also feel like not only learn the ropes, but they like see the ropes and they don't run, you know? They see what kind of ropes you have to jump in.
When we talk about like culinary school or like students coming from like culinary school, like the guy who doesn't go to culinary school, is like the school of hard knocks, sometimes they know a lot. You know, I mean, culinary schools gives you a base of everything.
You know, you're 100% right. One of the chefs, Skylar Golden, that I learned more from than any other chef I've ever worked for from a culinary perspective, he didn't go to a culinary school.
He didn't?
I'm pretty sure he didn't.
Get out of town.
No, yeah. It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
The guy's a wizard, but you know what I mean? It it's like what you were describing. I mean, I hope I'm not mistaken, but I'm pretty positive that's correct. And he, really impactful on me and my career from a food perspective.
So he's one of your influences and
Yeah,
teacher
100%.
mentors in a way.
Yeah, he was a buddy of mine that really taught me that it doesn't really matter what you're working on. It should always be the best version of that's out there. I don't care if you're making meatloaf,
Yeah.
for example. Not that there's anything wrong with meatloaf, but let's just pick on meatloaf. If you're going to make meatloaf, how can we make the best meatloaf on
Sure.
the planet?
Right,
Let's
right.
work towards that. And let's figure it out. Let's create some research and development. And let's try to find the best recipe that we can possibly create. And he had that attitude about anything he was doing. Didn't matter what it was, and whether it was high end stuff or not. And that stuck with me a long time for sure.
Sure. Those like words ring in your head.
Yeah, constantly. It's the way I approach everything we do at the club. It's
Sure.
everything has been tried and tested many, many times over before it even makes it to a menu. And, we've put in the due diligence to try to create the best version of everything we do,
Yeah.
no matter what it is.
And I was kind of asking what it's like to work under, but we kind of got off topic because we're talking about how it's a fluctuating, it's a rotating door
Oh, yeah.
sometimes. So how do you, Chef B, react to that? Like maybe because that's sort of it's not having stability in a way. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
You got a new guy, more often than you want to. You want a solid crew, right? I mean, I'm assuming you guys have a pretty solid crew over there.
Right.
How is it like when you have to? I mean, how do you react to dealing with new guys?
You know,
Is that new guys? Is that okay? New guys, gals,
sure,
Newbies.
new people.
newbies. Okay,
FNGs.
F
Yeah.
and G's. Okay,
Yeah, it's just it's a new thing for me to learn. This is my first chef position, but I'm really thankful that I have people like Grant and Greg who have dealt with it and know how to handle it, and they kind of like talk me through it. But for the most part, it's just really like, all right, cool, like just do it again. It can be built again.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's. I mean, you guys seem pretty laid back. I think that's important to have when you're managing people and I'm sure there's times where maybe you're not.
You learn a lot from your chefs coming up that you work for about not only what you want to be like, but what you don't want to be like.
Exactly.
I've had a lot of chefs over the years, some that every day I try to be a little bit more like them, and some that not so much. And it just sort of, for
What's
me,
it like when
what I didn't respond to personally, and not everyone's the same way, but what I did not respond to coming up was, the throwing frying pans across the kitchen and that whole sort of old school French chef mentality.
Yeah.
So I could work under it and I
that
was successful, but
yeah.
that's just not how I want to do it.
Right. Yeah. Because with me, if somebody gets hostile and angry and stuff, I kind of like flip a switch, sort of, and I just don't. I'm like, no, not dealing with that.
Yep.
I got better things to do here. So, and it doesn't really sound like that's what you do, though. I think you still kind of thrive and
I try to not to. I try to create an environment where everybody feels like they can grow, but at the same time they understand and respect the standards that are expected. And it's in their hands. I'll give them every tool that they need to be successful. But if they're not successful, I won't hesitate to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm going to do everything in my power to make them successful. And I feel like that can help you a lot, especially with the way it is right now with that revolving door.
Sure. Now you're stepping into your first role in leadership.
Yeah.
And am I wrong saying that maybe Chef Grant here is maybe like acting as a mentor for you?
You are definitely not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
No,
think
totally. Like, I mean,
you got something good going there.
Yeah.
5 kids.
Yeah.
Real quick, when did your woman pop them out? Because
Okay.
you weren't doing that at the Driscoll, right?
My first set of twins, and yeah, I said
started
that
with
first
twins?
set of twins.
Oh wow!
Right.
Did happen then. Yeah, I have
Do
two sets
cool
of twins.
things happen to you like all the time? Like now, do
Man,
you like?
I
Do you win like lottery tickets twice in a day?
no,
or
I
something?
do, I've been waiting for that to rub off
We
on
got
my
Chef
scratch
B out
offs,
there.
but I haven't seen it yet. No, we're very lucky, for a lot of reasons. My twin girls are 7; they just turned 7, And then I've got another little girl that is 4, and then I have twin boys that are about to be 10 months here pretty soon. Wow. Yeah, so whenever anyone freaks out when I say I've got 5 kids, I always have to go, well, wait a minute. It was only 3 attempts that we wound up that way. But, we are very fortunate, for sure.
10 months. And then the 4-year-old, the oddball in the middle.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now, and that was a girl? A boy?
It's another girl, yeah. Well, that was the reason why we tried again. It's because we wanted that boy.
Oh, so, I thought you were going to say because we wanted more twins.
No. No, we had our twin girls, and then it was like, well, we're going to try again, try to get a boy. And we had Hattie, our middle. And then it was, some time went by, and my wife just kind of kept, tugging at me a little bit, going, we might get the boy this time. And she knew because that's what I would really want,
Yeah.
My little girls are great. I mean, they're angels, but at the same time, as a dad, you want a son, right? So we tried it again, and you got 2. So we're
Right.
lucky.
You got 2, right?
Yeah.
It might be like, you really asking me? Be careful what you ask for. you want one here too.
Yeah.
No, that'll be good. It's now this is becoming kind of a reoccurring question, but your kids, do you want to see them in the kitchen one day?
I would absolutely love to see any of them that would be interested in cooking to pursue it.
That's a first.
Absolutely, I would.
Most guys don't wish it on their kids to be, on their feet for 12 hours or whatever.
Right. Well, there's there are different environments you can end up in. We're again, one of the avenues that I feel like I'm very fortunate is working at the UT Golf Club. It's
you've been
so
wise
great,
and methodical.
they're so
about your
great to the
choices.
staff, and I don't necessarily work the same type of day
Like a
that I used to at the
rigorous-
Driscoll
sure, yeah.
or at the West End or at any of the other properties that I'd help out when I was over there. And
You've also paid some dues to do that.
well, I did it then.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate, and quality life's important, and they're only young once, and I try to make sure that any chef gig is more hours than a lot of jobs, but it's not near what it was like then. I'm not working 13 hours 6 days a week. There were definitely times where I did that for a long time, but the club is fantastic. They do a good job of taking care of everybody and making sure that everyone has some sort of balance. That's important.
So, do you guys have a both of you guys with the members there? Do you have kind of a like a personality with them? Are you forward and are you like in the spotlight? I guess you could say. Are you communicating and all that?
To some degree. I mean, am I out on the floor every single night during service shaking hands? Not so much, but the members that support the program and are really interested in the Crafted Eats program and coming to the wine dinners and showing up for all of the events that we craft for them, they all know me and I know them for sure.
So you've got some foodies living there.
Oh yeah, definitely. When we first started the Crafted Eats program, which again, just for anyone that it's a private club, so probably not a lot of people know about it that are listening, but I'll just put it out there. It's a menu that's got about 10 to 12 items on it before desserts, and then plus desserts. They're intended to be small plates. And the idea is that, like, if you and I were going to go hit up the club and go do the Crafted Eats menu, between the two of us, we might get 5 or 6 things and just kind of share everything at the table. Really high-end, smaller portions. My original thought when we rolled out that program was, well, this may capture 20% of the membership, give them something to look forward to, and maybe over time we can build it. And right out of the gate, half the tickets that come in are off that menu at night now. Yeah, and it was even at the very beginning it was. And as time has progressed, we've been able to push the boundaries of how far we can take that menu. And we've found that we've gotten support for every step of the way. There's never been a time when, anyone has had to tell us or the membership has told us, hey, you need to back down off of this. And part of the reason for that is we still have that all-day menu to appease the membership that are not looking for that experience. But the ones that are looking for that experience, you're not going to find food in town anywhere that's, head and shoulders above what we do there. And that's sort of something a lot of people, and this is part of the issue with hiring at the club specifically. You don't think about a country club with that kind of food. You just don't.
Yeah.
And, we're fortunate that our leaders trust us.
Is this like more fine dining?
The Crafted Eats program for sure is.
So when these guests are coming in for this fine dining, and I guess members, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do they actually come like dressed?
No, see, that's the thing is that the one aspect of this that is not that high end is the front of house experience, because like I said earlier, at the same table you're going to have
Oh yeah. Okay.
all types of members ordering different types of
Dinosaur chicken finger.
Well, we don't do that there.
No.
That was
What?
no.
We do smiley face mashed potatoes, though.
We got to end this now. Why?
Yeah.
Why don't you have that? No.
But you get the point. Is that like the experience in front of house is very
Yeah.
relaxed because
Yeah.
if you, let's say the three of us are going, and Chef B just wants a half rack of ribs. He's been thinking about it all day. That's what he wants to get. They're going to be amazing. But you and I are going to split 4 or 5 courses off the Crafted Eats program.
Okay, so
but we're at the same table together enjoying.
And I'm
the
bringing
same
my daughter, and
experience.
she's getting mac and cheese.
Bingo. There you go.
All right.
And that's what it's all about.
I get it. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Yeah. I asked that because we kind of lack like a fine dining experience in Austin, just because there's really
Yeah.
no dress code
It's-
anywhere.
Well, it's definitely from the food side, and
It is fine dining.
if you think about some of the places around town that are, some of my favorites, and I'll name a couple just for the sake of the conversation, but, if I go to Barley Swine,
Yeah.
for example, it's a pretty relaxed front of house environment. It's extremely professional, and they do a fantastic job, but fine dining doesn't have to mean white gloves and a crumber between courses.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But the food that's coming out absolutely would count as anything like that. So I feel like we do that there. I mean, Chef B, you can weigh in on what you think, but
I think so. I kind of like that, though.
I do too. And it helps. It helps us with a program like that at a place like a country club to be able to be successful, is by leaving the front of house a little bit more laid back than what you would see, and no one feels uptight or uncomfortable. The club has some degree of dress code. I mean, you're not going to come eat in the dining room in swim trunks and a tank top, but at the same time, it's definitely not that sort of environment you were discussing.
Something that's not come up on this podcast, and I'm sure you guys can both have something to contribute. The front of the house, back of the house, front of the house. What's your relationship sometimes?
In any kitchen environment that I've worked in the past, I try to make it a point to where the front of house and back of house have a strong relationship. It doesn't do the diner any good.
This is your mentor, so
It doesn't do the diner any good for us to be bickering back there.
sure.
If there's issues, if there's anything you need to work out, we'll deal with it after service. But in the heat of the moment, we're all there for the same reason. We're there for the same goal, and we're going to respect that. And I think that we've got a pretty strong relationship between front and back house at the club. I mean, sure, there are times where things are stressed in any kitchen, but I think that it's definitely a relationship that is equally as important than it is you with your own cooks. That may not be a popular opinion among a lot of chefs, but I will tell you that, it's important for me that they feel the support from us because they're the ones selling our food.
Yeah. Okay.
You send them out
when
there-
you say that,
Yeah.
I think that a lot of maybe people in the back of the house acknowledge, after whatever amount of time they put into the kitchen, that they're doing a craft that's not necessarily it's not anybody walks in and does their job.
Correct.
And sometimes your ego gets involved with that. And when you get the front of the house who's just serving, which also requires a skill set to appeal to people and keep them happy. But there's sometimes like the headbutt thing where it's
I'm
like,
not going to say I disagree with that, but I will tell you that, if the end game is for them to sell our stuff,
Chef Grant with the bigger picture always.
I try to. If the end game is for them to sell our stuff, and that's how I'm going to be successful, I need to find a path to get the most out of that individual that I can. It's not about a right fight. It's not about fighting with them because they rung in a ticket wrong. It's not about that. It's about how can I get through to this individual to get the most I can out of them, and then anything beyond that we can deal with later.
These are wise words. These are wise words because I really do. I think I see a lot of guys who kind of get the, they get the chip on their shoulder because
Yeah.
the front of the house, they just don't get it or whatever.
Well, I got a little lucky. We had, from my time at the Driscoll, in every kitchen I worked in, whether it was banquets, whether it was the cafe, or whether it was at the shorter tints of time where I was helping out at the grill, or it was at the Westin, I just happened upon kitchens where there was a strong relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I see flashes of things not going that way, it rubs me the wrong way so badly because I'm not accustomed to it that I feel like you have to deal with it. You got to deal with it right now. Because, let's say, for example, desserts aren't selling like they should. And this is a topic that's, hits a little close to home right now at the club.
Okay.
Is the point to berate these guys and make them feel small and to trash them every time they walk in the kitchen because and some cooks' views are terrible at selling desserts? No. Instead, let's train them, teach them till they get it. Let's take extra time out of our day to ensure they understand what we're selling.
Sure.
Let's incentivize them via some sort of sales program. Let's find ways to engage them so that they want to do it on their own. And over time, it will become habit. That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Is over time, it becomes part of the culture. But if you're not going to create that culture yourself as the leader, who is? Someone's got to do it.
Exactly, yeah. What are your thoughts, front of the house? Chef Grant, it's hard to dispute what he says. He's got a great approach.
And it's specifically about Chef B's product that we just discussed.
Yeah.
And,
I'm not, this doesn't have to be about like current situation, like front of the house in general, kind of
and
back
listen,
of the house.
our front of house does great. It's just to sit here and say that we don't have areas to improve too would be false.
Right.
We all can be better.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, the golf club members listening, order dessert, please. Right? Get that.
Please.
Get
Well,
Thank you.
Another thing too, and not to cut you off, Chef, I'm going to let you have it after this one last comment, but I will say that, we push ourselves in that program so much.
Pastries?
The Crafted Eats program.
Oh, okay.
And the desserts are intended for that menu. They're available to
Like a
anybody at any
finisher
time.
or something.
Well, I mean, just the quality and the how
I got
creative
you.
it is.
Yeah.
So we really push ourselves, and it's a lot of work to do that. It's
Yeah.
an awful lot of work because
Sure. Yeah.
it's not a private restaurant where you can just, no, you can't have chicken tenders here. Get out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't do that. So we have to also carry the weight of this all-day menu. And
You can't say no.
for the most part, you can't. And we have to carry the weight of this all-day menu. And like I said earlier, it's about, just because it's an all-day menu doesn't mean it gets the same attention.
Right.
I told you, I think back to my time with Chef Schuyler, and I think about even those things require the same attention to detail as anything else. So
Sure.
it's a lot of workload for our team, and what drives them is also being able to do things like this Crafted Eats program, and to put all that work into it and not see the success you want. You want to know for a fact it's because that item just wasn't popular, we need to change it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way to be successful, is to be able to look at the numbers and know what sells. But if the reason it's not selling is because no one's trying to sell it, or maybe they need more education on it,
More
or maybe
education. That's probably most common, right? They need to
Right.
know, like, be more fluent
right,
with
or
what it is.
maybe the service staff need to be more familiar with it. I mean,
Sure,
whatever
yeah.
the reasoning is, if there's any question as to why it's not selling, those numbers are to some degree a little bit irrelevant.
What are you selling right now?
Right now we have a rum baba.
Okay.
So I have with a tangy Texas peach sherbet, a vanilla cream chantilly, candied pistachios spiced with coriander, and some macerated peaches. Kind of keep it like very rustic, but just amplified conceptually as well.
Sure.
I also have a lemon tart with a brie ice cream and a blueberry lavender jam, with a ginger oat streusel, excuse me, and let's see, my corn cake, which is like a mix between a blondie and a cake.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has like corn flour in it. It has a corn with spuma.
That's probably what I'd get every time.
Yeah,
It's solid.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sure it is.
A
Yeah.
pretzel and corn, toasted milk crumble, pickled strawberry gel.
There's a lot of options.
Yeah, well,
So you guys are having So that currently those need to move, and they're not.
I think
Well, they're starting to, and like, so a lot of the things that I just talked about incentivizing the staff and trying to help build the team is what we're in the middle of now. And there's a lot of avenues to do that, but I will say that so far it seems like everyone's responding really well. We're starting to see a little bit of uptick in those items, so I think it's worth to put the time in. Is all I'm saying. For those chefs out there that kind of just go, well, servers suck, and that's the end of it. Well, you're kind of selling yourself short, because isn't the goal to have the product sold? Who cares about any of that? You know?
Yeah.
Make them not suck then. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying our servers suck, but I'm saying for those chefs out there that have that mindset, fix it then.
Sure.
You're the leader. Do something about it.
And on top of that role as a chef, I believe he's also a teacher. So you got to take that time to teach your the servers, My input with the whole back of the house, front of the house relationship, it's y'all are gears for this big machine, which is the restaurant. And you want to make business. You want to sell things. So y'all got to be at the same caliber. You got to hold each other accountable. So, like, for example, I told the vanilla cream, it's chantilly with mascarpone and whipped cream and heavy cream, vanilla, powdered sugar. But they're like, well, what's chantilly? I was like, what's French whipped cream? Why can't you say whipped cream? I was like, because it's chantilly. Just stuff like that. It's really just educating them. It's like, well, sometimes they just want a brownie and stuff. And it's like, right, which we do still have. But we're trying to just get everybody exposed, teach people more. Like, I mean, as when I go out and eat and somebody tells me like what a rumbaba is and I've never heard of it, it's kind of, that's the experience that makes me, damn, I want to go there again.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's part of it, right? You feed your mind as well.
Yeah.
Get the experience, get the exposure.
Well, when we started the Craft Eats program, the very first menu run, the goal was to push, obviously, the quality and the level of cuisine that the club has seen before, but at the same time, it needs to read very approachably. It needs to be something that the members can easily pick up on and know what it is.
Right.
So that was a big part of the decision-making process for what we did on the first menu run. The quality of food isn't any different than what we do now, but a lot of stuff on there that was familiar, And then over time, what wound up happening was, as the members become accustomed to it, we find ourselves able to push that boundary a little bit more and more and more. So that's where we are right now with the dessert program as well. Trying to push it more and more and find a way for the membership to get more experience besides just that brownie that Chef was talking about.
Yeah.
And
so it needs to work out some kinks, like
and it will, just like the rest of the menu did.
It will, but in the fashion that you're saying, you need to inform the servers and whatnot.
Yeah, teach them one team, one dream.
Sure. Yeah, no, I've not asked. I mean, we talked about that for a second there, though, but I've not really asked anybody about their relationship with the front of the house. And there you go. You have excellent input, though.
Man, I've seen both sides of the coin, and only one is successful.
Yeah,
and that's what I took away from those experiences.
I think you're the perfect person to ask that. There's one vision in mind, because I know a lot of guys who might, and I welcome it, just go into all kinds of crazy stories that they've had with service.
We've all got those stories.
Right, right. and that's great and stuff. But the attitude you have is kind of, that's very good.
Well, it's the same as what I said earlier about the culinary staff too. I mean, you got to just put the time in, but
and
you can't sacrifice standards either.
And
so
you mentioned teaching, like making that, like carving out the time for that. And you mentioned that you need to make more time for that.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it definitely asks more of you than sometimes you feel like you should have to do. But again, you have to look at yourself and go, well, why are you here? And then you're here to sell food. So
and then it's like also like when you're
Sure.
starting off as a cook, you start conditioning yourself to work those 10, 12-hour days, making that time to teach and everything just becomes second nature to you.
There's a lot of guys, myself included in here, where when you kind of get to teach somebody or show somebody where they're listening and they're responding to what you're doing, they kind of like it and enjoy it. I know I do. I kind of like, and those people become, trainers or even people in leadership roles. But, Yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of have to enjoy watching somebody progress.
You know, it makes me think about Sven. You know, our lead line cook right now.
Yeah.
Sven. I mean, he came to us with a far minimal amount of experience and knowledge base than what he has now, and
he's gotten a lot of it at the club.
yeah, and he owns our Crafted Eats program. I mean, that's his station is almost entirely encompassed by that Crafted Eats program, not so much the all-day menu. And you know, as the lead cook, he needs to set the standard for execution of food product. I mean, that's really, in a sense, the main point of his existence in the kitchen is to have the hardest station and to be the most consistent at the same time and lead by example.
He does it so well. You see him, he's like a calm face covered in sweat, but he's just like, I'm doing what I know what I gotta do. Yeah.
That's probably a
Stoic.
good. Yeah.
Have I met him?
He's in the PM shift.
Sure.
Maybe you might have. You probably recognize him if you saw him. But he didn't start out as the lead cook. That's what I'm saying. He was there for the inception of the Crafted Eats program. His input into what should be on the menu and his execution all comes from the experience that he's gained and how hard he's worked. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's another thing is that, you know, a lot of these kids that we hire nowadays, they don't understand the grit. You know, there's a certain piece of working in a kitchen that seems missing.
Yeah.
And, you know, he understands that, and he's understood that from day one. He also worked in kitchens for years before he went to culinary school. Yeah.
Okay.
He's like 119.
Yeah. And
19, wow.
you would know it. You would know it by the way he works. I mean, the guy he's poised to do great things, but that comes from, you know, yes, he went to school. Yes, he understands the fundamentals, but you can't teach work ethic.
Yeah, right.
You can't. I mean, I can teach anyone how to cook something.
Right.
But can I teach you how to do it where you're clean and efficient,
on time,
and
clean, all that stuff.
and you are a workhorse and you're wanting more punishment, right? Like, chef, put more on me. I got it. You know, like there's just not everyone's built like that. And those are the individuals that wind up being chefs.
They really are. Yeah.
You know, and
I always mention, and you especially, chefs, they have a whole there's a lot of more responsibilities than just cooking food.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know, if I could,
if you could just cook, you'd be happy.
Yeah, if
right?
I could have the title I have now, but go back in time to when all I did was cook, I mean, it'd be a lot of fun. But
a cakewalk,
you know,
right?
you have to understand business.
That there's the business side of it.
Yeah, that's important.
And I've come across this, and I've asked a couple guys, like when you get a chef who's very talented, but then you throw the numbers and the scheduling and all that stuff in front of them.
Find a chef that's got both, then you're off to the races. And I feel like I've gained that experience over the years, but you know, it's you're right. It's something that some chefs have one or the other. Yeah. Every now and then you run into some good chefs that have both.
Do you ever run into a chef that can cook very well, but is the executive chef, but has no idea what he's doing as far as scheduling and ordering?
All the time. All the time. Well, it's not about scheduling and ordering. It's about understanding costs from a bigger picture. You know,
so it's like a numbers. It's
more
of the menu.
At the end
design.
of the month, you're ultimately going to be responsible for your expenditures for your controlled items, paper goods, plastic goods, chemicals, whatever it is. And I hope I'm not boring anyone listening at this point. And then also you're responsible for food costs and labor costs. And, you know, you have to be able to speak to those things eloquently, you know, and this to me comes from my experience in hotels. You know, at the end of the month, I'm sitting in front of the GM and he asks me, why'd you overspend on this one line item? And I need to be able to explain it. You know, I was very fortunate. So when I left the Driscoll, the reason I left was because there wasn't an opportunity for promotion for me at the hotel. So at the time, the way the hierarchy worked at the hotel was you had an executive chef and you had chef de cuisines for all the outlets, right? Which I already was.
Chef de cuisine?
Yeah, there's missing missing piece there, and that's an executive chef opportunity. No one's going to go from a chef de cuisine specifically at the Driscoll straight to executive chef. It's just not going to happen. At least back then, that's how it was. So I knew that I needed to have that title and that experience to propel myself to an executive chef opportunity down the road. So the way that came about was I had a buddy of mine, Paul Polizzi's one of the best dudes I've ever met. He went to culinary school with me. He's an executive chef for Omni right now. He's been executive chef for longer than I have. When their executive chef left at the Westin, he was given the opportunity. He called me and said, I need a number 2. I need somebody I can trust. Again, this comes back to your leadership hiring, right? He said, I need somebody I can trust, somebody I know I can count on for events, restaurant, numbers, the whole 9. So he called me, and I went over there and as an executive sous chef. And he was great, and he taught me a lot. And he left because he got an opportunity somewhere else down the road. And the company felt at the time like I needed a little bit more experience before I took over the property, because it wasn't a small property. That's like 300 and, I don't want to misquote it, but 370 rooms. What's that?
This is the one at Domain?
Yeah, it's a bigger property. And but they knew I guess it seems like they knew they wanted me for the job. So at the time, they were building the Westin downtown. So I said, okay, we've got this guy, Michael Siri, from another location that we want to bring in here to run this property. But while the hotel's being built, he's going to office out of your hotel and teach you what you need to know to run your property.
Okay.
Which at the time I was super bitter about. Like, I was sour, man. I was so upset. I felt like, man, I put in all this work and I've shown I can do it. And in hindsight, the leadership at the Westin, specifically David Green, who was our general manager, who, man, I respect immensely. This is my favorite GM I've ever worked for. He knew what he was doing. And it wasn't to spite me by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure.
It was about, here's someone who has information you need, and I'm going to partner you with him. So Michael came on board, and he basically said, listen, I'm here for a finite amount of time. You know, my hotel's going to be done. I'm going to be there. It's my job between now and then to teach you what you need to know. And that individual, Chef Michael, taught me everything that I needed to know to run the business side of things. Because from the Driscoll, what I gained was everything I need to know about food. Now, granted, you're always learning about food. But as far as an appreciation and systems in the back of house and managing, your team, I knew that already. But they were right to bring him in, because what he taught me was how to manage the numbers for a multi-million-dollar operation over the course of a year, to where at the end of 12 months you end where you need to end.
It's mind-boggling just saying that. Does it start when because the numbers get so big?
It does.
Does it come down to a very simple process, or is it complicated?
I would say that some of what I learned at my time at the Westin made it less complicated.
But it's complicated.
It's a lot of stuff. I mean, in the end of the day, anything can affect your numbers, from food quality to unmanaged ordering to waste. I mean, you can't. And so many people have a hand in those things that it's hard to manage all of them to make sure they end up with the goal that you want. But what he taught me was understanding the business side of it. It's like he came on board and pretty quickly, I would imagine, realized that from the food perspective, it was a non-issue. It was, how do I get this individual ready to manage this monster of a property?
Right.
From a number side.
So he had his heart in it,
He was great. Listen, man, I have 2 people in my career that I learned the most from. I have 3 that I think of as mentors, right? So Chef Michael taught me the most I could have ever learned about business and about running it with that mindset. Chef Skylar taught me the most I've ever thought of from a appreciation for food quality and a zero tolerance for substandard food being served. And then Chef Jonathan Gelman at the Driscoll taught me about hiring the right people for the right job, despite their experience and what they've learned. Because he gave me a lot of opportunities I wasn't necessarily ready for, but he was an individual that said, you're the person I want for the job. So I'm going to give you the support you need until you're ready to go off and run this thing on your own. And he did that to me over and over again, where I just kept feeling like, man, I'm not, I don't know if I'm ready yet. But he just assured me, he's like, man, listen, you're ready. You're ready. And I'm going to show you what you need to learn to get there. And, those are the 3 individuals I learned the most from. But back to Chef Michael, he taught me about the business side of things, bigger picture stuff, which is a lot of what we've talked about, I feel like, in this podcast so far, is bigger picture stuff.
Yeah, you've got a good perspective on it all.
Yeah. And that's what he taught me. And while I was at the Westin, I was fortunate to get, I did some task force. I opened a couple of properties with the Westin just to help them get up and running. And I did some training in Chicago with a restaurant group called Let Us Entertain You, which taught me the entirety of the backhouse systems that Chef B experiences on a daily basis at the,
I've
at the
heard.
club.
I was in school in Chicago, and I've definitely heard of them.
Yeah, Lettuce is an incredible company, and I got to go train with them specifically for almost a week and learn about how their processes work. And then that information came back to our property, and so did the owners of Let Us Entertain You came back to make sure that we were running their things the right way. And like I said, I've been very lucky to have learned what I've learned from individuals that I have. But, Chef Michael was the guy that was like, listen, you understand the food side of it, but it's irrelevant if you don't know the number side. It's irrelevant.
It's true.
You could be the
best.
restaurant
will close.
Yeah, you could be the best chef that's ever walked the face of the earth if you don't know anything about numbers, and it doesn't matter.
So that's a hard pill to swallow for people who are like thinking they're passionate about. Well, they're watching the Food Network and they're ready to rock.
And it was especially hard for me when I felt like I deserved the job right out of the gate, and they didn't give it to me. But I went through a period of time with him where he really just sort of harped on. I say harped as if it's not a bad term, but like really drilled into me the importance of understanding your budget, managing your numbers, line
it's that
by
kind
line.
of thing where you're eager and somebody kind of is pulling you back and you're ready to go. You're ready to go, but like
in hindsight, I wasn't ready.
Right. There's still more. If you were ready and he didn't come in there, you there's a whole.
I wouldn't be
lot
remotely as successful as I am today without him. So he taught me that aspect of things, and then from there I took over the property, and then I went and trained with Let Us Entertain You, and then I gained these other experiences that helped me as far as backhouse fundamentals are concerned and managing the operation, and over the course of a couple years. I gained more knowledge than I had in the previous 7. It was just such a whirlwind, but it was worth it.
Sure. And so this is your first role as a leadership, and it's pastry chef?
Yeah, correct.
So how are you doing as far as, so this is your first time, and we're talking about, to me, it's very intriguing because it's complex to like, well, I'm not good with math. So when I think about a chef, most people are thinking a chef and they're cooking food and they're doing all that great stuff, right? And then there's the whole behind the scenes aspect. Now, this is your kind of first role where you might be
kind of dabbling in it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, or your approach? Chef Grant's got, I think, he's incredibly positive. It's your approach is incredible.
I'm very lucky.
I feel like you have to be positive, and that's a kind of a piece of the humble pie of becoming a chef. Is getting that, because like you said, there's a lot of people who come in and think their shit don't stink. I definitely had that kind of candor. We get a lot of
that now, right? Yeah.
Once upon a time, I thought that too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people who then get served that slice of humble pie and don't like digest it well end up just being a supervisor, But the ones that actually take it, it's like, all right, kind of like shut your mouth, open your eyes, and look. And that's what I'm doing right now. Not to say that I was like super cocky or arrogant, but like I'm just kind of like taking notes, kind of just observing everything. And it's really fun. It's really good.
Yeah.
I want to interject one thing here about
ahead.
Chef B, because it's important, in my opinion, that this gets brought up. But as a chef, whoever you hire as your surrounding support staff for leadership, having a zero tolerance policy for things that aren't right is a must.
Okay.
Whether it's cleaning, or it's
true.
the execution of the food, or it's managing waste, or whatever the station requires. One of the things that Chef B brings to the table that helps the management team here is he doesn't care who you are, how long you've worked there, how long you've worked that station, what you think you know. If it's not right, it's not right, and he lets you know every single time. Nice. And that's invaluable to someone like me.
Sure.
Ditto. I think it's very I think what really helps me too is just like I said, like it also when they move on, like the teaching aspect is like I tell people like I don't want people making fun of you and like when you move on from here, because you're gonna move on from here. We don't want you to be here forever. I don't want people making fun of you like you're doing this way. I'm like, it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I know I don't do things like that.
So like technique.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Or just even like
or cleanliness, or anything.
Maintenance in general. It's like,
If you're sloppy,
yeah,
Yeah.
like if they say like, oh, where'd you work at UT Golf? Oh, you worked with Chef B? Like, I don't think you did because he doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Those points you just touched on, those are very localized to like, chefs or cooks, like being clean and organized and stuff like that. But it goes so far.
I feel
Right.
like that's like the number aspect for a cook is to chefs, Like, yeah, you can create it, but can you run a line?
Yeah.
Can you maintain a workstation? Can you maintain a prep area? It's akin to like, yeah, you can do all that, but can you know the numbers? You know the business aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's all, when I think of it, it's I enjoy chefs.
at every step along the way, there's certain things you can do to propel yourself forward. As a line cook, working clean and efficiently will take you so much further than you realize it will. A
Yeah,
lot of line
and-
cooks think, oh, I just cook great food that's seasoned well. I'm like, no, man, listen.
Well, there's
so
I think
much
there's
more than
the
that.
type A person,
Yeah.
right? And that's the person who's, I guess, more or less just anal about things, and that's who you're talking about. You want the guy who can't stand that the station is dirty.
I want the one who can recognize when it's not right and without me saying something, do something about it.
Sure.
That's what I want.
So when you walk through the kitchen, because you said that, and you see 100 things that are wrong, and you got to address every single one. I mean, it's a big task, and I'm just kind of saying that for anybody. I mean, it is because you can do that, right? I mean,
It is, but what I've learned more than anything else over the years, like a big part of being a chef is just never letting something slide. That is 99% of what you do. Whether it's
it's
me,
a avalanche effects, right? If you let one thing slide, the next day,
I've got a cook who, and this isn't a true story, I'm just making up a scenario for the sake of conversation, right? I've got a cook who, let's say,
sure you are.
isn't, well, now I got to be careful. I've got a cook who, let's say, just to make something up, isn't scraping down the grill between orders or isn't emptying their fryer baskets from debris from other things. I could go, oh, yeah, we're busy. Let's just keep it going. But if I do that, I'm teaching him
It's okay.
that next time
yeah.
it's okay to do that. It's okay if there's a French fry in the middle of
Yeah.
my Brussels sprout appetizer or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
It is like mind-numbing and repetitive as it may seem. They have to learn that there's 0% of the time where they're going to get away with it.
Sure.
And I don't mean get away with it in a term of like they're trying to get away with it, but they seem to understand the standards,
Yeah.
right? Because you're setting the standards as a leader.
Well,
Chef B
you're
setting the standards as a leader.
It trickles down everywhere.
Right.
In the moment that you say,
And
"Oh,
if
that's
Chef,
fine."
if Chef B walks by and one person's plating one of his desserts different than the other 4 people who work that station, and he goes, "How we're freaking slammed right now. We just need to keep going." You just taught that person that that's okay.
That there's a gray area.
That there's a gray area, and there's not. There's never a gray area.
So
this is how it is.
Your mentality, I really do think that you've been taught to, obviously, the sanitation aspect of food, but you need to be, it needs to be safe, right? And it's such a big deal, right? But
Yeah.
I think that kind of like translate to the quality and the presentation, like they're just like equally important because it's so important and it's an underlying thing that a lot of people, they don't think about when you go out to eat. Like, not only are they cooking the food and it's going to come out and it's going to taste good and you're going to enjoy it, but like there's so much more. Like anybody can get you sick.
Yeah.
I've sent back countless plates at the pass only because they weren't plated right. Not because anyone's going to get sick, not because it wouldn't taste good, just because it's not consistent with the standard.
Right.
And that's the nuts and bolts of
I
what
think
it is
that's
as a
all
chef.
like it kind of like those things are like if they were on a scale, they'd be equal. They'd be like safety, but like it has to be right as well.
As a chef, here's the standard. The more that you're willing to let something go that's not part of that standard, your business is going to suffer. It's going to suffer in a lot of ways. So you can either decide right up front to be a chef that's just zero tolerance for anything that's not right, like Chef B, like Chef Greg at the club, or you can be the kind of chef that is willing to let things slide every now and then because it's convenient, or you're really busy and you can't afford to deal with it. Listen, if you're a member or a guest or whatever environment you're in and you're dining and you order a steak medium and it hits the pass, and I can tell right off the bat we've passed medium, or we're not there anymore. Would you rather me send you something not right, or for the server to go to the table and you go, you know what? The chef wasn't willing to serve your steak because it was overcooked, but it's going to be perfect. It's going to be another 6 minutes. And then the second time it comes out, it's spot on perfect. Which situation would you prefer?
For sure.
And you have to be willing to be the guy or gal,
to
be the one to say no. And it's tough sometimes when you're in the weeds. You got long ass ticket times. Listen, I'm telling you, it's easy to sometimes to be able to just go.
It's easy to
it's
say
good
it,
enough.
right?
But listen, if you're telling yourself it's good enough, you've already made a mistake.
Right.
You've already made a mistake.
You translated that very well. I mean, if you're a guest in a restaurant and somebody comes out and says, it's going to be a minute longer because your explanation there, that's a good explanation, as well as being in the weeds and the idea of just, okay, it's fine.
Just get it out. We're busy.
But it's like
Right.
in your brightest moment, if you just were to just throw that out, you'd never do it.
Correct.
And it's like you got to kind of like,
if there were
do
no
the math.
tickets in the
Yeah.
window or
You would
25
never
tickets in
send
the
it out.
window.
Right, yeah.
Exactly. It's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to sit there and know someone's been sitting there for 20 minutes waiting on their entree. Now it's going to be another 12. It's hard to sit there and go, man, this is almost right, but not quite. But you need to be the one.
All right.
Yeah.
The buck stops with you. The buck stops with Chef B when he's at the pass. Me when I'm at the pass. There's no one else that can defend and make sure that things are the way they're supposed to be but you. And you got to be willing to just be that guy. And from an experience of a diner, I can tell you that if I was dining somewhere and someone told me, it's going to be a few more minutes, the chef wants to make sure it's just perfect, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Instead of 7 minutes earlier sending me something that's just garbage. Like,
Sure.
why would you do that? You
Yeah.
know? And it takes a certain amount of pride, and it's one of those things you can't teach. You can't teach work ethic. You can't teach pride.
Yeah.
But if someone carries those things, they're not going to sell it to begin with.
And that's who you want. It's not just in the back of the house or in a kitchen. You just have to. That work ethic goes a long way in any area.
I mean, it could be a bartender. It could be a lot of things, not just a cook.
It could be anything.
Right.
Construction worker, plumber, any trade.
Correct.
Really anything.
I feel like working in a kitchen, you have to have a certain level of like militant mindset, but to be matched with like an artistic mindset,
That's
And that's-
poetic. I like that.
That's
I like
nice.
it. No,
I
it's
like it.
nice. Yeah.
It's
I'm going
true.
to get that tattooed next.
You kind of have to be like, just like you said, there's black and white. I feel like when it comes to being a chef, technique is black and white. It's either done this way or not. Yes, you can kind of meander it about, but like when it comes to execution mainly, not technique. If that's what the chef wants, you're not the chef. And
That's right. That's something we have very briefly touched on, is when you're on the line and you have your own mind, you're not going to do well on that line, because the chef has a vision, and you need to be like need to be working as part of the team. Sure, you can think and you can have. If you guys are like where it's open for ideas, that's okay. But
But
to like criticize,
that's the thing.
There is a but.
Yeah, I've had chefs before, like early in my career when I was just a cook. I had chefs before that liked food seasoned with way more salt than I was accustomed to.
Yeah, sure.
Whether it's because they smoked or whatever.
But I think it's McDonald's. I mean, a lot of guys
Whatever
grow
it
up.
is.
Even me, I'm still
Again,
extra.
you're taught to serve the food that your chef wants to serve.
Yeah.
Because in the end of the day, I don't care what my fry cook thinks about the food. I really
There
don't.
you go. And
Listen,
that's
it's
what
my
it is.
menu, it's my food. Now, granted, we're all on the same team. We all want the same set of goals, and everyone has, and this isn't very common in a lot of kitchens, but in our kitchen, everyone has a say.
Yeah.
It's like if you want to contribute ideas to the Scrapped Eats program, you're more than welcome to, and I will help you craft that into a finalized dish.
Sure.
But in the end of the day, when we come up with what the standard is, that's what the standard is.
Right.
And like,
There's no deviating from that after that point.
I want to get back to, it's like, any line cooks listening, it's like not just saying like put your head down and shut up. It's kind of like you kind of have to have that militant mindset. And chefs do see that, and they're like, all right, let's like, he can put up there, like, what can he give back?
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of have to have that
Okay.
artistic caliber as well.
Yeah, no, like you're being observed.
Exactly.
I mean, you guys on the line, like anybody's on the line who's listening, are executing something that's bigger than them, right? And they're part of the bigger picture there. And like you guys are watching, and if they've got something to contribute, that there's a time for that. But any line cook who's so caught up in, well, this would be perfect, and I'm going to change this, and I'm going to change this because this will be right. They also are being observed.
Again, at the end of the day, I can teach anyone how to cook, but there are certain things that I can't teach. If you have discipline and you're going to stick to the standards that are part of the expectation, or you're going to keep your station clean the way it's supposed to be, or you're going to have the drive and work ethic, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But I can teach you how to do the recipes.
I think it's becoming rare. I mean, I know I sound cynical, but I'm not alone.
Well, you're not wrong.
What's rare?
You're not wrong. And
just the work ethic and the
from a bigger
discipline.
from a bigger perspective standpoint, when you think about, the amount of people that don't have jobs now, right? I mean, unemployment rates, they do impact the restaurant industry just like any other industry.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have individuals that are learning for the first time and they're just not getting their feet wet with the culinary industry, those are people who are hiring now. It didn't used to be like that. And, while we try to be very sensitive to that and embrace anyone and teach them what they need to know if they don't know it, at the same time, it's obviously not as easy as plugging and playing someone who's been in the game a long time, who knows what it means, who has that drive already. So there's a little bit of a struggle there, but it's manageable.
Sure. I'm going to shift courses here. We've been talking for a minute here, and I love it. But we've been focusing a lot on like the leadership, executive chef side of it, and just the kind of responsibilities that go into being a chef, which I'm genuinely curious about. I'm sure people are. It needs to be acknowledged in a way. So, where are your favorite places to go eat? There you go. Complete curveball.
You want to go first, Chef? You want me to take it? I'm ready to rock and roll if you're ready for me to take it.
Yes. When I can, if I can rather treat myself, I definitely love foreign domestic. Shout out to Nathan and Sarah. They're doing some awesome stuff.
Good people, good stuff, right?
Yeah. My buddy's the exec chef at Parkside currently. He'll be moving to OJ soon, or all of in June. Other than that, I love sour duck. Super casual, super cute. Other than that, and if it's going to be super low-key, it's like 888 off Old Turf.
888. Wow.
I don't know about 888.
I don't know either. So Old Torf.
Everything
where?
else you said, I know.
Old Torf, and I don't know the intersection. It's off Old Torf. It's this little like Vietnamese restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Really,
find that
yeah.
one.
Okay.
This is why
It's
do
a
this.
famous-
This
it's
is just a. For
I'm
me,
going to
really.
second everything you said. I haven't done
Yeah,
it
dude,
at
those are
888,
some excellent.
but I'm going to add a couple to it.
Okay. But all of those were like.
They're no joke.
Yeah, go
They're
on.
no joke. I'm going to say that if we are ready to burn through some cash and we're just ready to go, I'm going Uchiko 100% of the time.
I've only
Not
been-
Uchi,
I've-
Uchiko.
Uchiko specifically, and listen, I've only eaten Uchi once, but Uchiko many times. I like the blend of hot items and cold items, and you can kind of go back and forth and create this experience. But I love Uchiko. My wife and I go there all the time. Another one, definitely, that's one of our favorites, is Salty Sal.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't been to Salty Sal, check it
On
out.
the east side, right?
100% worth it, yeah. And then the next...
That's the first time that's come up. I'm so surprised.
Salty Sal, really?
Yeah.
I love it. Maybe
It's
I'm in the
like an
minority.
OG
I don't
as
know.
well.
I love it. And then definitely barley swine. It's
Barley
worth it to
swine.
just go and just do the chef's tasting and just let it happen.
Yeah.
Don't do the a la carte and fight it. Just do the chef's tasting and just you get what you get. And I'm telling you, it's worth it.
I only did
100%.
feel like hard because we showed up kind of last minute, but
Yeah.
it was still damn good.
Right. If you're booking a reservation there, that's the time when you'll let them know that you want to do the chef's tasting, but it's 100% worth it.
Sure.
It's great. We
You
love
know,
that spot.
Chef Bryce is over there, and I really want him to come on the podcast. But he's introverted like a lot of chefs, and
Sure.
he's on the fence. He's on the fence, but he would have a lot to contribute here.
Yeah.
That's such a fantastic spot.
Yeah.
Just see if you can get him on here.
Yeah, definitely. So your suggestions are like all home runs.
Yeah. And then did you say foreign and domestic?
I did
Okay,
say
I was going to
domestic.
say that's another one I ought to bring up. So there you go.
There.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I went there for my birthday. It's pretty amazing.
it definitely is. I took someone there on their first date. I shouldn't have done that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's like a third date spot.
It's definitely
Overcommitted,
Yeah.
dude.
well. No, I'm guilty of that. I did that
That's
at
funny.
Laundrette once too. So
Oh,
Laundrette. Listen, I've had really great experiences there too.
yeah,
only been once.
Yeah, man. It's like old school French, but if that's what you're into, dude, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good, man. I liked it.
you know what's good there? The desserts.
Yeah.
You should go there.
Laura
You should-
Sawicki, she's a wizard.
Didn't she?
she has-
James Beard, yeah,
I think so.
yeah, I believe so.
Have you eaten at Loro yet?
Oh,
Go.
Go, just
pretty
go.
Yeah, listen, it's an interesting environment. There's no servers. There's just like this long ass bar and like ordering stations and whatever. But I'm telling you,
super cash.
Loro's super good.
Super casual. So okay, so I've not been there, and immediately when you said long, I thought of Franklin's long line, long. But and then you said super casual. I was like, oh, it almost sounds like Aaron Franklin was like, I'm known for this long line you have to wait in. Let's work with
Well,
something
Yeah,
where
now you
difference-
order at the super long
The difference
line.
is at Loro is that you're going to get through that line way faster.
okay,
Way faster.
So there is a line, but you'll get through it faster.
Yeah, well,
That's
I
good
mean,
to
it's
know.
just kind of first come, first serve. But at the same time,
I'm good at those though because I'm old. I mentioned that.
show up,
I
be
just-
willing to sit at the bar, and you'll get through it pretty quick.
I
It's
can
no
sit
big
at
deal.
bars. I'm good at that too.
Yeah, it's a solid spot for sure. Go to dinner after 5. They have the brisket. It's worth it.
So Laurel's on high
After 5
hospitality. That's high hospitality. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great, man. It's
Yeah.
great.
Do you have any favorite spots?
Chewy's,
Listen,
Pete Terry's,
I'll crush some Chewies. Who cares?
That green sauce?
Yes,
at
dude.
Chewy's?
Who cares?
No,
it's good, man.
The jalapeno ranch or whatever it is?
Yes, that
Yeah.
one. The creamy jalapeno.
Yeah, that's the one.
I always joke because I'm there with my daughter. I just say, just bring it in like a jug.
Every now and then, like when my mom is gone there, I always give her shit too. I'm like, you're just dunking it in ranch.
You are, right?
But listen, it's good. Let's be real.
Somebody
Yeah,
said
not bad.
they had the recipe. I was like, the recipe for the creamy jalapeno? Like, it's fucking ranch. It's ranch with like a minced up jalapeno.
But it
at
doesn't
most.
matter.
Yeah, but-
it doesn't matter. It's good.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Man,
Pete
where
Terry's.
so Eberly is like that's a place I always
Eberly's
suggest
good
to people.
spot,
Actually,
man.
people,
That's a good one.
People, because I get out so much, are always
Yeah.
asking me, and everybody's so different. I was Karen, if you're listening, she probably is. She's got her folks taking her out for her birthday, and I suggested Rosedale, which is Rosedale Kitchen and Bar, which is Chef Janelle. That's new. It's like brother sister Swift's Attic.
Oh, wow.
Swiss
Yeah.
Attic's a good spot.
It's across the street from Central Market.
Yep.
So I suggested that or peach tortilla because obviously the peach.
Let me tell you
Never been
something.
there.
I used to crush some peas tortilla when
Yeah.
it was just a truck.
Yeah.
Way
Okay.
back
There you go.
Before brick and mortar.
Mm-hmm.
Peas tortilla was this food truck that had like I can't remember what it was back in the day, but they had these little banh mi sliders that were fried catfish sliders. It was a really cool like fusion sort of thing. But man, I love that truck. And then
Yeah.
now they went brick and mortar. They're going big, and which is good because they're popular.
Dude,
I haven't had the
I've got
honor.
the cookbook right over there. Yeah.
Peas tortilla has a cookbook.
Yeah. it's
I'm
right-
gonna take a peek at that before I
That's
get out of
yeah.
here.
But Eberly, I said Eberly's delicious.
Everybody's good.
It's ridiculous, and it's ridiculously expensive too. So beware of that. Via 313 is a go-to. That's come up multiple times.
I haven't been there, but I've heard a lot of stuff about it.
Yeah.
God,
Never been either.
Yeah.
it's a Detroit style pizza. So like 313 is the Detroit area code.
Okay, are we talking about pizza? Because have you been to Buffalina?
No, but it's right next to Barley Swine.
it, dude.
Yeah,
Go to
that's.
Buffalina.
I went.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Go.
It's been years, but yeah. It was
So when I was at
unforgettable.
the Westin, a huge part of our menu is our pizza program. We had a giant pizza oven, like it's sick. And when we were developing our pizza dough recipe, our GM at the time was like, "Let's go visit Buffalina because it's good." And he wasn't joking.
No, you know
It's
what?
awesome.
You just okay. So Everly. When I say Everly, the funniest thing is the fucking pizza at Everly
Yeah.
is
Really?
delicious. It's so crazy.
I believe it.
I had
wow.
a guy. He treated me to like this big charcuterie board with me and my boy. We were there, and it was delicious. So I was like, all right, well, I'm full. Let's. Who the hell would order a pizza here? I was like, let's order it. Best fucking pizza I've ever had.
I believe it.
It was delicious, man, and it's all about the dough and whatnot. So,
You know who else has a really killer pizza dough? And I'm guilty of trying to figure this one out. Is North.
40 North.
I'm telling you right now.
Fucking dude, I was just thinking about him.
Yeah.
He's so that's Clinton, and Andrew works at Pershing, which is like a private club that he can't. I guess he's willing to come on here, but he can't talk much about Pershing. But Eric and Andrew are close, or I'm sorry, Clinton and Andrew are close, but 40 North, yes,
Yeah.
they do that whole shebang. He lives there with his son. He lives at 40 North.
Really?
Yeah, with his son. It is cool. His son's going to be foot at a pizza pie. We'll have something good going on.
Fair enough.
I had to ask, but yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. But you guys got anything that you ever, like, do you guys work with charities over at the club? Is that a thing?
Man, it's interesting because, our owners of the club donate just an incredible amount of resources to charities that we don't do partnerships with charities because they already do it personally from a personal standpoint. But with that being said, we do a lot of stuff with Folds of Honor.
Folds of Honor.
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with Folds of Honor, they donate resources to families of fallen soldiers.
Okay.
So let's say dad's off at war and
Super
something
important.
happens. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty incredible. I love that we're part of that program. I really do. And it tethers to one of our tailgate parties, which is one of our biggest parties of the year.
Oh, yeah.
We'll probably have 500 or 600 people there. We do tailgate parties before every home game, Friday night before the Saturday home game. And a big one is our Folds of Honor one. That's a big one that we do. But they also donate a ton personally on top of that.
Nice.
But, Folds is pretty incredible what they do. It's every year they have a designated speaker come out and talk about their experiences. And it's just like,
Moving.
it's hard to sit through,
Yeah.
because what you think is hard is nothing
Yeah.
compared to what some of these individuals have been through and what they're willing to do
Sure.
for not only this country, but for their family. So,
Yeah, Patriots are.
I love it. I
you
love it.
Can't beat a Patriot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's Folds of Honor is like the main guy.
That's a big one. I mean, we do a lot of stuff throughout the year that's, charity-driven events where they'll host their event at our property. And we'll do, what do you call it? Like auctions and things to help
Yeah.
raise money and whatnot. But the one that we're tethered to the most, I think, in my opinion, is definitely that one.
Okay.
And it's a big one.
We had a unique podcast where Suzanne Wilson from Water to Thrive came on. Now, it's up on Instagram, like her photo and stuff. But Taco from Kamiri Tatsuya
Yep.
joined her because they do like a similar thing where they do like a chef's table is what they call it, but they just have a bunch of chefs auction off something, super cool.
Right.
And Taco is just like, what's super cool is you get me. We'll do whatever you want. We'll go to your house. We'll however many people you got. We'll just kind of go from there. But everybody's got their kind of own approach. But that podcast is coming out probably Saturday or something.
Mm-hmm.
But when I talk about time on this podcast, it's irrelevant because your podcast will go up later. So,
Right.
but yeah, the charities are something I kind of want to focus on a little bit. Have you heard of Hungry Souls?
I haven't.
Yeah, there's a lot of nonprofit charities too.
Right.
And it's picking through the ones that are worthwhile. So the one you mentioned was, what was it?
Folds of Honor.
Folds of
Yep.
Honor, and I trust you. So we'll
It's a
I'll
good
look
one.
into that, and then Water to Thrive is another one.
If we ever did something separate from that at the club, I would hope that we'd have the opportunity to do something for March of Dimes.
Yeah.
And, kind of selfishly, I wish that because my older twins were born early. They were premature. And what March of Dimes does for families in the NICU is pretty incredible. So at some point, it'd be nice to do something with March of Dimes.
Yeah, nice.
I've done it at properties in the past. I did it with the Driscoll, a March of Dimes event or two. But, folds, man, I'm telling you, like when you have these speakers come out and see kind of,
oh, man.
You only get a snippet of what their life is like.
Yeah.
They talk to you for 5 minutes, but they live it every minute of every day.
And the mind-boggling part is the sacrifices, and we're not even talking about specific stories, but
Right.
they're the sacrifices they're making, and it's for the country.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, it's it's worth definitely worth investing some time into.
Whatever side of the political spectrum you wind up on, someone's got to be out there fighting for what we want here, and it's incredible. The last few years I've been there, I've gotten to hear some of these stories, and every time I'm blown away.
Well, it's funny that you talk about whatever side you're on, but when you hear the stories, none of that matters.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It does not matter at
It's
all.
the same thing as cooking. You're fighting for one thing.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, I mean, I just I feel like for anyone out there that's listening that has had some sort of interest in the past at specifically the UT Golf Club, I would hope they could consider coming out and checking us out. It's
As far as membership.
yeah, as far as membership goes, we do an awful lot for the membership aside from there's a golf course. Well, that's one piece of what we do.
No, it sounds like
The food and beverage
night,
program,
families.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, there's stuff Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Sunday night. Not only that, but if you don't have families, there's plenty of stuff for you there at the club. We host events specifically for members all the time, aside from what we do on a daily basis for regular membership. I would hope that you'd come out and check us out. It's definitely something that we work really hard to, give them the best possible program imaginable.
Sure.
And, like I said, we're fortunate in our where we work and the leadership we have surrounding us.
Yeah.
They're extremely supportive. And in the end of the day, we're all there for the same reason. It's to give the biggest and best experience we can for the member that's coming in.
Well, I'll tell you, Chef, we have
Yeah.
people listening from not in Austin, literally people who are messaging, who are
Yeah.
moving to Austin. So, and like I said, back-to-back country clubs, I'm like, oh, I need to be living in a
Well,
country
listen,
club.
aside from that, the golf course is no joke. If
Yeah.
you're an avid golfer, it's
There you go, yeah.
tons of fun.
That's a selling point.
I mean, oh yeah, and listen, I'm not a huge golfer, but I've played the course several times, and it is so much fun, and it is such a beautiful golf course. I think that anyone that came out and checked it out would be hooked just from that. Aside from the fact of all the incredible things we do on a daily basis for the members that come and dine with us,
Sure.
I think they're definitely missing out if they pass us by and not come to at least check
And the
it out.
only way anybody's going to go eat is if they're friends of a member or a member, right? Yes?
Well, it is a private club, and that is the stipulation.
Okay.
I wouldn't say otherwise, but I would also say,
Could I go eat there?
hit me up on Instagram.
Oh,
We'll figure it out.
I wanted to ask.
I'll figure it out.
No, you've got and I very briefly beforehand looked. You have got your Instagram is what? What's the handle there?
Come see me at Chef Grant Irvin. That's all it is.
Okay.
At Instagram, Chef Grant Irvin. It's going to show you specifically what we're doing on a daily basis on our Crafted Eats program.
Incredible Instagram.
Yeah, and keep in mind that when you look at those images, that's not including the entirety of our all-day menu items. So you've got burgers, turkey clubs, ribs, anything you can imagine that's normal country club fare. We're going to have it for you.
All right.
But
you
aside
got
from that,
to press pause here and listen, or no, go follow you on Instagram. It's worth.
check it
worth
out. My Instagram page is specifically devoted to UT Golf Club's food happenings, specifically for wine dinners and things like that. Super high-end stuff. But again, that's not including all the all-day menu dining program that we
And
do
I'd
on
be
a daily
all
basis.
over the all-day menu.
Oh, let me tell you,
Burgers,
the ribs It's just
Ribs.
ridiculous trying to keep up with those things. How many we sell on a daily basis.
The Frito pie is probably like my favorite thing
Oh
right now.
man,
Frito pie.
we can
Yeah.
barely keep up with
That's
it.
a
It's
southern
so
it's
good.
insane.
They're
It
so
is
good.
insane how many
Now,
of those are ordered.
that pulled pork sandwich, too.
Sun tea up in the north, but no Frito pies.
Listen, don't eat a Frito pie until you eat our Frito pie, and then
Okay.
I promise you'll never eat one again.
Chef B, what's your Instagram? Are you on Instagram?
I am. My Instagram handle is at BRGDPEREZ.
PERZ. Okay, I need to get on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That one's a little bit more like me, I guess.
Just having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing your thing.
I mean, it has my food as well, but like, yeah.
Sure.
On my cat.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Cool.
Truth.
Yeah, it's true. My cat, me, fun stuff. Very charismatic.
Sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I always say this. You guys always welcome to come back.
I appreciate that.
You know, we
Yeah.
got into some informative stuff here.
Sure, I hope it wasn't too boring to everybody.
Yeah.
You know what, man? I think the information is useful.
I'd love to come back at some point.
Yeah, and if you want Grant on a TED Talk, he'll be more than happy.
Oh,
Let me tell you, I'm not afraid to talk.
Yeah.
I didn't present it correctly. Yes, this was your TED Talk. I'll put
Oh
it
my
in,
God.
into little sound bites there.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know,
No, but you
I'm no
guys,
Dan Barber, but I'll do the best I can.
you're always welcome to come back. Like I said, there's all kinds of stories, you know. But like getting
Yeah,
to know
man.
you guys and what
Absolutely.
you're doing is always fun. But you know, bringing you guys back in and talking
Yeah,
more
I appreciate
about
the format. I mean, this has been super cool, and
Yes.
love the experience. So we're ready whenever you're ready.
Yeah, it's my first one. It's kind of fun.
Yeah,
totally open door. You guys are welcome back anytime. So
awesome.
thank you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.